Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Dinner Guide. I'm your host, Chef Andy, and today we are going to be making a nice, simple snack or biting that you can actually have for your guests for dinner. We're going to be playing with some chicken dishes today, or rather a chicken dish today, which is basically a chicken slider. So without further ado, we'll move this way to our ingredients. So I have some cubed chicken there. I've got some breadcrumbs and some sesame seeds. I've got some mozzarella cheese, one broken egg, some grated ginger and some salt. I have some mayonnaise, some black pepper, some barbecue sauce that we made here, and some grated carrots. I also have just 3 pieces of gherkins, some chopped white onion, some fresh coriander, and that will be all that we'll be working with today. In the oven as well, which you're going to see a little later, I have some dough that we made a little earlier in there, so it's still in its proving stages. We're gonna take a short commercial break now, and when we come back, you're going to see what the dough looks like. We're gonna roll it up, we're going to let it prove, and then we're just going to go straight into our chicken patties. See you in a little while. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Chef Andy, and for those who missed the introduction to today's show, we're going to be playing with some chicken dish, with a beautiful chicken dish today. We are going to be making some chicken sliders. So I already have the dough proving. It's sitting in the oven now. It's been sitting there for about half an hour to about 45 minutes. But while that proves, I'm just going to show you how to make a very simple patty mixture. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna prepare this, we're gonna allow it to rest and marinate and get those juices flowing. And then we're gonna go back onto our dough. We're going to make some beautiful rolls today, which we're gonna be using as our sliders. And then we're just going to finish off. So first things first, I'm just going to start with the chicken patty. So about 100 grams of cubed chicken. And then I have some grated carrots. And then I have some mozzarella cheese. So drop all that in there. All right, and then I have my breadcrumbs here. Right, first I'm just going to go with a bit of salt and a bit of black pepper. And then I'm going to add my breadcrumbs in there, fresh breadcrumbs. All right, and then I will add a bit of my white onion. So it's a definitely very, very, very rich in flavor type of burger patty. So in this particular recipe, you'll be able to see that we're incorporating quite a bit of vegetable flavors, a bit of herbs, a bit of spices. All right, so just going to incorporate some ginger in there. And yeah, there we go. Last but not least, a bit of chopped fresh coriander. So I'm just going to use about a teaspoon of chopped coriander. So I'm just going to chop that roughly like that. So that's about a teaspoon. We're just gonna chuck that in there. All right, very simple technique. Now we're just going to add one of our eggs, one whole broken egg. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to give that a nice mixture. So be sure to incorporate all your ingredients in a large bowl. It gives you a little more room to get your mixture all mixed in properly. Right, so you should be getting to a point where your mixture starts to form into one nice big lump. Right? So I'm just going to now work my fingers in there, try and really get it to get a little more mushy. Right, so I'm just gonna keep mixing that, and as you can see, the bowl continues to clean up as we continue. Remember, the mixture is supposed to just you just need to keep working it and it'll just continue forming itself into a nice single lump there. Right, very, very simple technique. Right, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to go straight into the shaping process. So I'm just going to take you through that quickly. Always rinse your hands, always keep your hands a little clean. Right, so I'm going to show you a simple way of getting all your mixture to actually be able to be the same size. So some of you who have missed this before, I always like to work with an ice cream scoop. Remember, the beauty of this is you always get the same quantity. So if you don't have a scale that you can use, you can work with this. If you don't have either, I always insist you can also grab a bowl, just fill up the mixture to the level height so that you keep it consistent. Turn it around, get those balls out, you're still going to get very beautiful portions out there. Right, so easy peasy. Just going to grab a bit of water there. So remember, the water is to just help us in making sure that the mixture doesn't stick directly onto the spoon. So I'm just going to run that in there a little bit. And all I'm going to do is grab my mixture there. And all I'm going to do is press it against the side of the board just to make sure there is no air pockets in there and that your whole mixture is all leveled in. Remember, you're trying to get them to be consistent. Right, so onto my board, I'm just going to turn those over. And I'm going to do the same for the rest of the mixture. So very, very simple way of portioning out. As I said, if you don't own an ice cream scoop, you can always use a small bowl or you can just work with a scale. Just be sure to measure out the same amount of quantity right through to the end. All right, so just going to level that again. So here we are now going to have 3 beautiful balls there that we managed to scoop out of our mixture from earlier. So for those who are just tuning in, remember, in the mixture here I have some breadcrumbs, some grated carrot, some fresh coriander, a bit of salt and pepper, a bit of egg as well, just to aid us in binding the patties together. Right, so all I'm going to do is just going to touch a bit of the water on the surfaces of my hand. You can work with oil, but I find water to be a little easier to work with. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take that beautiful ball there, beautiful chicken patty, and I'm just going to roll it like that on the palm of my hand. Just give it a nice quick pat like that. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to leave those on the board like that. And I'm just going to repeat the same process with the other 2. So the idea of working this on the palm of your hand is to try and squeeze out any excess air pockets that are in there, any pockets that may cause your burger patty to break up while it's on the pan frying. Right, so very simple. And as I said, you can choose to work with oil, you can choose to work with a bit of cold water. Remember, the idea is just to make sure that your hands are not too dry and that the mixture doesn't stick too much to your hands. Right, so just going to finish that last one off. I'm just gonna give that a nice pat. Remember, I like to work with the palm of my hands. It's a little more stable to work with. It gives you a definite shape when you're trying to get to spread out a patty like that, so that comes out really easy as well. Alright, so easy peasy. Just going to leave those on the board. Just going to clean my hands quickly, and we're just going to go straight onto our dough. So what we're going to do now is we're basically going to knock down the dough. Remember, we've been leaving it to prove now for about half an hour to 45 minutes. Normally I would say you can prove it a little longer, but because this is a smaller quantity mixture, I'm actually going to prove it a little less than the required time. So I'm just going to quickly take that out of the oven. So remember, for the dough, you can you can actually prove this anywhere that's warm, but because I have the aid of a tabletop oven next to me, I only set it to the lowest temperature possible and I let it sit at that. The beauty of it is it evenly allows the dough to just prove as we continue, and it also manages to keep it at a standard temperature right through the proving process. Right, so I'm just going to grab a bit of flour, and then I'm just gonna grab a bowl behind me here. So remember, the flour is just to aid you in the process of working your dough. So I recommend always have a bit of flour on the side. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to dust my hands a little bit. I'm just going to knock down that dough, as you can see. Right. So always try and scoop out all that excess flour that's on the sides of your bowl. Remember, you don't want to waste any of that. And simple. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to dust my tabletop, as you can see. And all I'm going to do is start folding in my dough, one side at a time. So this is basically just to give the dough a bit of a consistency with the texture. We're also trying to squeeze out any air pockets that are in there. We're also trying to make sure that our dough is even right through as we work it. So very simple technique. I'm just rolling it on the palm of my hand, which I dusted lightly. That just goes straight onto the table like that. And all I'm going to do, remember we're making sliders, so we don't want them too big or too small. And remember, this is going to get bigger while it cooks in the oven. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to split it 4 ways like that. Right, and using the help of my countertop here, I'm just going to reshape those into balls. Remember that one big ball gave us 4 equal quarters. So I'm just going to quickly fold those like that. Very simple. Right, and this is basically the most important part of the process, because this is where you actually get the balls to shape up. So I always just have one hand on the counter and I use my other one to work. So I just dust it lightly, and all I do is I work that dough, turn it around. So all I'm doing is working it while tucking in my thumb. So this helps you to get a nice, beautiful ball out of it, and one that's actually free of any air pockets. Okay, so I'm just going to work that, as you can see, very little flour on the surface. So just for the finishing process, I'm just going to turn my thumb a little bit on the inner side, and I'm gonna open my palms out a little more. So as you can see, all you get at the end of that is a nice, beautiful ball shape. All right, so I have a tray here that I used, that I greased earlier. I'm just going to dust it a little bit with some flour, as you can see. This is just to make sure that our bread does not stick to the tray. Always give it a little shake as well. Make sure your tray is evenly greased and coated. Remember, you just want that flour to sit right on top of that greasy layer that you did earlier. I always knock some on the table to get rid of the excess. So all I'm going to do is roll each one of them the same way. So always feel free to also roll it twice if you're not sure of the first time. Right, so I'm just going to finish that off like that, and that goes right in the tray. And I'm just going to repeat the same process with the rest. So very little layer of flour on the table. Remember, you don't want too much. Right, as I said, very simple technique to get your balls to shape up. So the reason why I'm using the inner side of the tray is because I want the heat to get there evenly right through. So the best thing to do with a tray such as this one, you can, if you have an alternatively smaller one or a flat tray, you can also work with that. I'm using the muffin tin because I'm looking for a round, beautiful shape out of each one of them when they're cooked. Right. So I'm just gonna roll that. as I said, always right in the center. And then for the last piece, same thing. Just give it a nice press onto the table and just keep working your way clockwise or anti-clockwise, whichever you prefer. Right, so just gonna keep going around. I use my thumb to keep tucking in. Always work around the table as well if you need to get a bit of flour underneath there if it's too sticky. So all I've done is rolled them up, as you can see. 4 beautiful equal balls there. So all I'm going to do now is we're just going to finish those off, and then those are gonna go into the oven. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cover this with some damp cloth. We're going to allow it to proof for the second time. We want to really get those balls a little bigger before they go into the oven. And then we're gonna egg wash them. We're gonna sprinkle some sesame seeds, which we have already. And then we're just going to finish them off in the oven. We're gonna grill the patties. We're gonna put the sliders together, and then we're just gonna go plate. So we're gonna jump into a short commercial break, and when we come back, you definitely are going to be able to see the finishing bits of the sliders that we started off today. See you in a short while. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. For those who missed out on what we were doing before the break, we were doing some slider buns in the oven. We had marinated some chicken, which we're gonna turn into burger patties. And now we're just going to finish off the last bit of the dish. So I'm going to show you now what those came out looking like. I'm just going to lay them on a plate on the side here. So for those who missed out on what we did before the break, we were basically just making some buns from scratch. Now they're done. We're just going to take them off and leave them on the side there. Those are a bit warm, so we're just going to let them cool off before we slice them. But in the meantime, we're just going to jump straight into cooking the patties. So I'm just going to have my pan going on the side here. Right, so very simple technique, as I mentioned to you guys earlier. That would have made probably one nice big bun of bread, but I switched them into 4. So I'm just basically giving you an idea of how to also break main dishes into snack items. So this is actually a very good way of turning one whole burger that you'd have made at home into an appetizer for 4, or just a biting for the kids for school, anything from just before dinner to carrying it as a snack on the following day. Right, so without wasting any more time, I'm just going to grease my frying pan there. So basically what we're going to be doing now is we're gonna sear the meat, the patties that we have here. We're just going to seal them on the heat a little bit and then take them out. We're gonna rest them slightly. We're also gonna go jump straight into arranging our sliders, and you're gonna see how a slider comes into being. Right. So our pan, just a little swirl there. Nice and smoking, nice and hot. So I'm going to start with the first piece. So what I'm using here is grease-proof paper. Alternatively, you can use that, or you could just roll them and place them directly. I prefer these because I can actually keep them in the fridge for longer. Right, so all we're doing now is laying those beautiful chicken patties on the pan. For those who missed out on what went into those, there's a bit of carrot, a bit of coriander, a bit of salt and pepper, a bit of egg, breadcrumbs, and of course some oregano. Right, so we're just gonna cook them 2 at a time. Actually, we can go with 1 more. We still got room on the pan there. So all I'm going to do is lay those on the pan. So remember, these are slider burgers. They're much smaller than the regular size burger. They cook a little faster. So I will mention in advance that you don't want to cook them too long. You just want to sear them on the pan. Remember, the patty is already skinny enough. The chicken is very lean, so there is not much fat to cook down. We're just gonna bring the heat up a little bit. Alright, so those are nicely cooking on one side. We're just gonna keep cooking them for about another 1 minute, and then we're gonna have a chance to flip them over and see what they look like on the other side. So while those are cooking, we're just going to slice our buns now. Remember, for those who missed out, we made some burger buns to order. We made them from scratch. So the idea of this particular size, it's basically for the fact that we're going to be plating them as sliders, not as regular burgers. Right, so these are nicely cooled off. So this baked in there for about 20 to 25 minutes. We took them out, cooled them off on the rack, and now we just have them sliced open. Right, so we're just gonna give a quick check on our patties. As you can see, nice, beautiful golden colors coming through there. Just gonna set those aside. Right, so very easy technique of plating. I'm now just going to show you how we start to put those back together. So all we're going to do, in front of me I have a bowl of mayonnaise and a bowl of homemade barbecue sauce. So all I'm going to do at this stage, first we're gonna turn the heat to low, allow those to cook through. So all I'm going to do at this stage is to grab each one of these, and all I'm going to do is put a nice dollop of mayonnaise on each. So nice bit of mayonnaise all around there. And we're just gonna move those to the plates. So I'm just going to break off the tops there that we sliced through earlier. And as I said, just a nice generous spread of mayonnaise on each one. Right, and as you can see, our bread is nicely layered out. You can see the crumbs in there. It's a perfect, it's a definitely good looking, if not perfect texture that we have through there. The bread is nice and light, evenly browned on the outsides. The sesame seeds are still attached onto the bread, so you now definitely know how to do your own buns at home. Remember, if you're gonna be making any different sizable bun, just adjust your cooking time and adjust your ingredients as well accordingly. You'll also need to adjust your cooking times, because a bigger bun will not cook the same way the small ones did. You'll probably be changing the baking tray as well, so also adjust that in accordance to your recipe's recommendations. Right, so we're gonna have a look at those beautiful colors there. As you can see, nice and golden on both sides. Right, so those are nicely cooked through. We're just now going to move that to the plate in front of us. Right, so always start with your bread right at the bottom. I always insist, it's always nice to have a bit of barbecue sauce for your burgers. We made this from scratch. So I'm just going to put a nice generous dollop right in the middle there, right on top of the mayonnaise. Right, and then we're just going to go with our burger patties. I always like to make them a little slightly bigger than the sliders themselves. It gives a beautiful appearance and it also looks good when presenting. Right, so easy peasy. And all we are going to do now is do a bit of barbecue sauce on the other side. And I'm just gonna lay those sideways like that. right. Easy to make burgers at home, easy to make sliders for appetizers for your guests that are coming through for dinner, as a dinner snack if you're planning to have a really light dinner at home. Also a very good option. Right, ladies and gentlemen, presented before you is a trio of sliders. The patty made from some chicken, some carrots, some coriander, a bit of herbs and spices, a bit of oregano. We used a bit of egg as well and a bit of breadcrumbs to bring the binding together. The patty is made to order as well. A bit of flour, a bit of yeast, a bit of salt and pepper. We rested those and proved them twice, baked them lastly for about 10 minutes. They came out nice and golden brown. The barbecue sauce we made from scratch, definitely something you can be able to find online and make on your own. If you still find it a mission to make some on your own, I always recommend just go with the recommended or the already made one that you find in your stores. So basically to the sides there, I'm just going to mention what's on the side. So basically this is just a chili, regular green chili that I cut lengthways and then cut it also right across there. And all I did was rinse it under a cold tap, dumped it in some cold water, gave that a bit of time to harden up. And then to the left side, which is your right, is just gherkins that we got conveniently. So basically we just slice those right through. We just put them on a plate as they are. So from my end, there's not much more I could say about those. Easy, very to make sliders that you can be able to do at home. You can be able to show your kids. Something you can make in advance, you can make over the weekend. For the parties, you can always cook them on the pan. You can cook them on your grill if you're having a barbecue and you're entertaining friends and family. For the sliders, for the buns, you can always buy those. If you still find it a mission to make them yourself, you can actually buy them ready. And all you do then is just slap some sauce on them, put some hot patties in there, and then serve. So from the studios today, from me, Chef Andy, it has been a pleasure hosting the show today. I hope you have enjoyed learning how to make your own sliders that you can be able to make at home. As always, I always insist, please leave your comments, please leave your recommendations and your questions. Check us out on Facebook. And from myself here at the studios at BrandPlus TV, and on to you viewers watching from home, definitely has been a pleasure. And for now, I will honestly say thank you for tuning in. Goodbye and have a lovely evening.